What is the fifth dimension? The fifth dimension is not exactly a physical place that you pack a bag and travel to. It's not like stepping on a plane and arriving at a new country. And yet, in a way, it really is like entering a new world. You don't have to go anywhere because it's already here. But once you shift into it, it feels as if doors open that you didn't even know existed. The colors of life seem brighter, the flow feels smoother, and the weight you used to carry quietly falls away. You can think of it as a layer of reality that's always been present, like a radio frequency that's been broadcasting all along. Most of us have been tuned into the third dimension, which is heavier, slower, ruled by survival, struggle, and separation. But the fifth dimension is a higher station, a higher vibration. And when you tune into it, life feels less like a battle and more like a dance. At its core, the fifth dimension is a state of consciousness. It's the awareness of unconditional love, unity, peace, and truth. It's the place where fear no longer dictates your choices, and separation starts to fade. Instead, you feel connected, to yourself, to others, to nature, to the universe itself. In 5D, reality feels less rigid and more fluid. Things flow. Synchronicities happen. You trust that you are supported, and that life itself is guiding you. So you don't travel to the fifth dimension in the way you might travel to another city. You awaken into it, you remember it, and once you experience it, you'll notice that it's not about escaping this world. It's about seeing this same world with higher eyes, with a higher vibration. So the big question is, how do you know if you're in the fifth dimension? Well, first of all, you'll notice that your life begins to be guided more by love than by fear. Fear used to be the voice that shaped so many decisions. Fear of missing out, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough, fear of the future. In the fifth dimension, that grip starts to loosen. Instead of fear whispering in your ear, it's love that leads you forward. You begin choosing things not because you're running away from pain, but because you're moving toward joy. You notice that your heart feels lighter, your choices feel softer, and you start asking yourself, does this bring me closer to love? Does this bring me closer to peace? And when you follow that inner compass, your life begins to feel aligned, almost as if invisible hands are guiding you gently in the right direction. It's not that fear disappears completely, it may still appear, because you are human. But in the fifth dimension, fear no longer drives the car. It takes the back seat. Love is the one holding the wheel now. And that shift changes everything. Another thing that's very common when you begin to live in the fifth dimension is how differently you experience time. It doesn't feel so rigid anymore. Sometimes it speeds up. Whole hours can pass in what feels like minutes when you're aligned, joyful, or lost in the flow. Other times, a single moment stretches out and feels eternal, like time itself is holding you still, letting you soak in every detail. It's as if the clock no longer has the same authority over you. Instead of living by the tick-tock rhythm of the world, you begin to sense that time is more like an ocean, something you can drift with, something that expands and contracts. In those moments, you realize that time isn't fixed. It bends to your energy, to your state of being. And this soft, fluid relationship with time reminds you that you are no longer trapped in the heavy schedules of the third dimension. You begin to understand that the fifth dimension flows at the speed of presence. When you are here, now, fully awake in the moment, time opens up for you. Also, as you shift, you begin to sense a much deeper connection with all beings, humans, animals, and nature alike. It's as if the invisible wall that once made you feel separate from everything else begins to dissolve. You start to realize that you're not just walking through the world. You're woven into it, a living thread in the same fabric of life. A bird flying overhead, the way the leaves move in the wind, the smile of a stranger passing by. These things touch you differently. You don't see them as random pieces anymore, but as part of one vast symphony that you are also playing in. Even animals seem to look at you with different eyes, and you feel the trees, the sky, the earth beneath your feet speaking to you in subtle ways. This connection doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It's often quiet, gentle, and deeply comforting. It's a remembering, a feeling that we were never really separate to begin with. And that is the essence of fifth-dimensional consciousness. Unity, a sense of belonging, and the knowing that all of life is truly one. And along with that sense of connection comes another shift. Old patterns and conflicts no longer seem to trigger you the way they once did. The arguments that used to pull you in, the situations that once made your heart race or your stomach tighten, somehow lose their grip. It's almost as if the drama of the third dimension no longer has the same weight in your life. Of course, challenges may still appear, you're still human, still living in this world. But instead of getting caught in the storm, you find yourself standing more in the calm center of it. You see things for what they are, you take a breath, and you respond from a higher place. There's more space between you and the reaction that used to rise so quickly. In the fifth dimension, peace becomes stronger than conflict. You don't need to prove yourself the way you once did. You don't need to win every battle. You begin to choose harmony over being right, and forgiveness comes more naturally. The situations that used to feel like heavy chains now feel like passing clouds. And in that freedom, you discover that you are no longer defined by your wounds or your triggers. You are guided by something higher. Another beautiful thing that happens in the fifth dimension is how much more you begin to trust in synchronicity. Life starts speaking to you through little signs, patterns, and what others might call coincidences, but deep inside, you know they are not random at all. Maybe you think of someone, and within minutes they call you. Or you're wondering about a question, and the answer appears in a book, a conversation, or even on a passing billboard. The right people cross your path at the perfect moment, opportunities line up in ways you couldn't have planned, and you begin to feel like the universe is gently weaving your steps for you. In the third dimension, synchronicities might feel rare, like little sparks of magic. But in the fifth dimension, they become the rhythm of your life. You don't have to push and force as much, because life is guiding you, showing you where to go, one sign at a time. And as you learn to trust this flow, you realize that the universe has always been speaking. You're simply tuned in now, awake enough to notice. As you move deeper into the fifth dimension, your intuition begins to speak more loudly and more clearly than ever before. It's that quiet inner voice, the soft whisper that always seemed to be in the background. Suddenly it feels closer, stronger, and harder to ignore. You find yourself knowing things without needing to logically explain them. You walk into a room and sense the energy instantly. You meet someone new and you just feel whether their intentions are genuine or not. Even small everyday choices, like which road to take, which words to say, or which opportunity to follow, begin to flow from a deeper knowing rather than endless overthinking. It's not about fortune telling or predicting the future. It's about trust. It's about realizing that within you, there is a compass that always points toward what is true and aligned. And in the fifth dimension, that compass becomes crystal clear. The more you listen, the more you notice how beautifully life unfolds when you follow it. Intuition becomes your natural language, guiding you step by step, moment by moment, in harmony with the universe itself. Also, when you're living in the fifth dimension, you begin to value truth and authenticity. The masks that people wear, the fake smiles, the half-truths, they feel heavier than ever, almost like you can see right through them. And at the same time, you feel this deep longing within yourself to be fully real, fully honest, fully you. You don't want to play small or pretend anymore. You don't want to live according to someone else's expectations. Instead, you feel drawn to express your true self, even if that means being vulnerable or standing apart from the crowd. In the fifth dimension, transparency feels lighter than pretending, because there's nothing to hide. And you notice this shift in others too. You're naturally attracted to people who are authentic, who speak from the heart, who carry an energy of honesty. The conversations that light you up are the ones where nothing is forced, nothing is hidden, where souls are simply meeting as they are. In this higher state, truth becomes a kind of nourishment, authenticity becomes freedom, and you realize that living in alignment with what is real is one of the purest forms of love. Also, compassion flows out of you more naturally than ever before. It's not forced, and it's not because you feel you should care, it simply rises from within you, like a gentle spring of love that wants to pour itself out into the world. You look at others, and instead of judging their flaws or mistakes, you begin to sense their pain, their story, their humanity. You see beyond the surface into the heart, and this makes you softer, more understanding. Even when someone lashes out, you find yourself thinking, they must be hurting, rather than reacting with anger. And it's not just with people. This compassion extends to animals, to nature, to the earth itself. You may feel called to help, to nurture, to uplift in small ways, whether that's offering a kind word, protecting the planet, or simply holding space for someone who needs it. In the fifth dimension, love doesn't just live inside you, it flows through you. It reaches out to touch others, not because you want anything in return, but because giving becomes as natural as breathing. And in that flow, you feel more connected, more alive, more in harmony with the greater whole. Gratitude begins to feel like your natural state. Instead of waiting for something big to happen before you feel thankful, you start noticing the beauty in the simplest things. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of water when you're thirsty, the way the sky paints itself in colors at dusk. All of these little moments awaken a quiet sense of awe inside you. It's as if you realize that life itself is a gift, and every breath is something to be grateful for. Even challenges begin to carry hidden blessings, lessons that shape you, opportunities that help you grow. And instead of focusing on what's missing, your heart becomes tuned to what's already here. In the third dimension, gratitude might come and go depending on circumstances. But in the fifth dimension, gratitude becomes the foundation. It's like the lens through which you view the world, a steady undercurrent of appreciation that keeps you aligned with abundance and peace. And the more grateful you feel, the more life seems to give you reasons to stay that way. Gratitude becomes not just a response, but a way of being. As you shift deeper into the fifth dimension, you become much more sensitive to energy and vibration. It's like an inner radar wakes up, and you can instantly feel what uplifts you and what drains you. You might walk into a room and sense whether the energy is light and joyful, or heavy and stagnant, before anyone even says a word. People, places, music, even the food you eat, everything carries a vibration, and in the fifth dimension you can feel it more clearly than ever. You notice how certain songs make your heart expand, how certain spaces feel alive and peaceful, while others seem to weigh you down. And without overthinking, you naturally start to choose what feels lighter, what feels aligned with your higher self. This isn't about judgment, it's simply awareness. You realize that energy speaks louder than appearances, and that vibration is the true language of the universe. By following what feels good, what feels alive, you're tuning yourself to the higher currents that guide you through the fifth dimension. And as you align more with those uplifting vibrations, you find that life itself begins to mirror that energy back to you. One of the things you may notice is that you simply feel lighter, not just emotionally, but even physically. The heaviness of worry, the burden of regret, the old stories you used to carry on your back begin to loosen their grip. It's not that life suddenly becomes free of challenges, but you don't hold onto them the way you once did. Your body feels freer, your heart more open, your spirit unburdened. And even when circumstances aren't perfect, there's a quiet sense of lightness, as though you're no longer dragging the past with you. Alongside this comes another shift. Manifestations happen quicker. In the old, heavier energy of the third dimension, it might have taken months or years for your thoughts and dreams to take shape. But in the fifth dimension, the gap between intention and reality feels shorter. You think it, you feel it, you believe it, and somehow, it begins to appear. Sometimes it shows up in ways you expect, sometimes in surprising forms, but always in alignment with the energy you're carrying. This is why it becomes so important to be conscious of what you hold in your heart, because reality mirrors it back more swiftly now. You also find that you don't need to chase life as much anymore. The endless striving, pushing, forcing, it begins to fall away. Instead, there's a deep trust in the flow of the universe. You realize that what is meant for you comes in its own perfect timing, and you don't have to exhaust yourself trying to control every detail. There's more ease, more surrender, and more faith that you are being carried exactly where you need to go. And with that trust comes a renewed joy in the present moment. You no longer spend as much time obsessing about the past or worrying about the future. Instead, you discover beauty right here, right now. A cup of tea, the sound of laughter, the way the evening light spills across the floor. These small things become enough to fill your heart with joy. It's as if you've slowed down enough to finally experience the richness of the moment, and you realize that happiness was never hiding in some distant tomorrow. It's been waiting for you here all along. Nature itself begins to come alive in ways you hadn't noticed before. The trees seem to whisper, the sky feels more expansive, the stars sparkle with an almost otherworldly brilliance. Colors look brighter, the breeze feels like it carries messages, and even the stillness of a forest feels like a sacred presence surrounding you. In the fifth dimension, you don't just see nature, you feel it, as if the earth itself is speaking directly to your soul. As your journey into the fifth dimension deepens, another beautiful change unfolds. You begin to let go of your attachment to ego, labels, and identities. The things that once defined you, your job title, your appearance, the roles you played, the successes or failures you carried, no longer feel like the core of who you are. You see them as temporary clothes your soul puts on for a while, but not the truth of your being. Instead of clinging to how the world sees you, you rest more easily in the knowing of who you are beyond all of that. It brings a freedom that can't be bought or taken away, because your sense of self is no longer tied to fragile masks. It is rooted in something eternal, something infinite. And from this softer sense of self comes another shift, the release of judgment. In the third dimension, judgment was almost second nature, comparing yourself to others, deciding who was right or wrong, who was better or worse. But in the fifth dimension, judgment feels heavy, almost unnatural. You see that everyone is walking their own path, learning their own lessons, and carrying their own wounds. This doesn't mean you agree with every action or excuse harmful behavior, but you begin to understand that judgment doesn't heal anyone. Compassion does. Acceptance does. And so, instead of casting others out with your thoughts, you hold them in the wider space of love. This deeper love also awakens in you a sense of higher purpose. In the third dimension, goals were often about survival, status, or personal gain. But in the fifth dimension, you feel drawn toward something greater, a calling that transcends your own small story. It might be the desire to uplift others, to bring healing, to share wisdom, or simply to shine your light in whatever way you can. This sense of purpose isn't about pressure or duty. It feels like alignment, like the natural song of your soul rising to the surface. And when you follow it, your life feels more meaningful, more connected to the greater web of existence. Dreams and quiet moments also begin to change in this higher state. The nights that used to be filled with random images or forgettable stories now sometimes carry messages, symbols, and guidance. Your dreams may feel vivid, alive, even prophetic. In meditation or stillness, you may receive downloads of wisdom, sudden insights, flashes of clarity, or a deep sense of knowing that comes without words. It feels as though the veil between worlds has grown thinner, and the higher realms are whispering directly into your consciousness. These moments remind you that you are never walking alone. Guidance is always near. And perhaps one of the most magical shifts of all, you begin to feel as though you are waking up inside a dream. Reality itself takes on a dreamlike quality, fluid, mysterious, and full of wonder. The rigid edges of the third dimension soften, and you sense that life is far more magical than you were ever taught. You realize that you are both the dreamer and the dream, that your thoughts, feelings, and intentions shape the world around you. This recognition doesn't make you detached from life. It makes you more engaged, more present, because you finally see the beauty of the game you are playing. The fifth dimension is not an escape from reality. It is an awakening to a higher reality that was always here, waiting for you to open your eyes.